Treasurer, Member for Namatjira.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And whilst those of us in Central Australia, we occasionally face some serious storms and a bit of a blow, and our community always pitch in and help each other out, it's nothing like what the people at the top end face during cyclone season. So I want to, I think, echo everybody's sentiments here as how community comes together and supports each other across the top end when these things happen. And the people in Central Australia, I can tell you honestly, were thinking of their friends and colleagues up here in the top end as you went through Cyclone Fina on Saturday night. And Madam Speaker, at the peak of Cyclone Fina's impact, there were nearly 19,900 customers across the Darwin and Katherine network who lost power. And as of Monday evening, around 14,900 have already been reconnected, with approximately 5,000 customers still to be restored as crews work through the remaining complex repairs. And these are the facts, and our focus remains on completing this work as quickly and as safely as possible to restore power to those customers. And I want to particularly acknowledge the thousands of Territorians who have faced significant disruption over the past few days. Many households have dealt with long outages, damaged yards and loss of food, and I also thank those who have checked on their neighbours and supported one another as Territorians always do during severe weather events or other emergencies. And I will also acknowledge the astounding efforts of Power and Water's staff and contractors. Their preparation, as the Chief Minister said, began well before the system crossed the coast. The call centre, run remotely by the Alice Springs team, handled more than 3,300 calls and nearly 3,000 emails and 2,200 web messages, with over 120,000 website visits for updates being looked after by the team down in Alice Springs. And on the ground, there were 33 field crews assessing damage across the Greater Darwin area, disconnecting unsafe sections, and then began the safe re-energisation as soon as conditions actually allowed. And restoration work continued throughout the night. And excuse me, and most of the CBD, inner suburbs, Palmerston, rural areas and parts of the Tiwi Islands have now been reconnected. And many of these men and women have their own homes that have been impacted. So their own homes are impacted and they're out there working to support their fellow Territorians. Madam Speaker, as power continues to be restored, it is natural for Territorians to ask how our network can be strengthened for the future. And of course, that is a sensible conversation, and one this government is already approaching through proper planning and evidence. But Madam Speaker, what is not sensible is the position put forward by the opposition. They've immediately rushed out to call and immediately reinstate their old undergrounding program, presenting it as a simple and obvious fix in the middle of cyclone recovery. It is being offered as a plausible sounding solution at a moment when people are understandably frustrated, Madam Speaker. But sounding plausible is not the same as being deliverable or being affordable or actually being grounded in fact, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this government is focused on reconnecting homes safely and steadily. Meanwhile, Labor has reached for the easiest headline available, with no updated costings, no delivery plan and no explanation of why they failed to implement the very same program when they were in government for the last 8 years. The facts matter, Madam Speaker, so let's walk through them. In 2022, Labor announced it would underground the high-voltage backbone in suburbs for $60 million, leaving thousands of residential lines exposed to falling trees and debris. That was the headline. It was not backed by a deliverable program. The moment they confronted the real requirements, they stepped back, Madam Speaker. 2 years later, they quietly conceded that $60 million would not cover 13 suburbs, but it would only actually cover 3. 13 suburbs, Madam Speaker, reduced to 3. That's not a plan, I can tell you, Madam Speaker. That's an absolute retreat. Now, during a cyclone recovery, Labor is attempting to rebrand this abandoned commitment as if it were fully costed and ready to begin. But the updated reality, as advised by Power and Water, is particularly stark. Undergrounding the original 13 suburbs would cost up to $1 billion in today's dollars. That's $1 billion borrowed, Madam Speaker, another $1 billion added to debt, and approximately $50 million in interest every single year for decades. To cover that, Territorians, including small businesses Labor claims to represent, would face around $450 extra per household per year just to service the interest bill. That is not resilience. It is not affordability. It's a billion-dollar idea without a billion-dollar plan. Labor knows this, Madam Speaker, and that's why they did not deliver it during their 8 long years in government. They saw the numbers and they walked away. Instead of explaining that to Territorians, they now recycle the same simplistic line as if nothing has actually changed. It's absolutely absurd and is an affront to the people of the Territory. To be clear, the CLP did not cancel a working underground program. Labor never delivered one. What they left behind were mismatched costings and a promise that they could not fund. Even the undergrounding work they point to, 9 schools, cannot be used as evidence for suburb-wide works. Schools are contained precincts with single access points. Schools are contained and do not require replacing thousands of household connections or navigating easements across entire residential suburbs, Madam Speaker. Their unit costs cannot be extrapolated to a network serving 71,000 customers. Madam Speaker, if undergrounding the entire network were financially viable and deliverable and provided the best value for Territorians, this government would do it. But we would not pretend a nearly $1 billion price tag can be absorbed without actual consequence. We will not pretend something is simple just because it sounds simple at a moment of frustration. We will not gaslight the people of the Territory. Our responsibility is to restore power safely, strengthen the network where it delivers genuine value, and be upfront with Territorians about what is realistic and what is not. Labor offered a line before. They are offering the exact same line again now, Madam Speaker. Territorians can see the difference between a government doing the hard work during a recovery and an opposition recycling a proposal they abandoned the moment real costings actually arrived. As I said, Madam Speaker, we won't gaslight the people of the Northern Territory. We will tell people the truth, be upfront about the realities, and not throw out a press release when people are understandably frustrated and vulnerable in the hope of a cheap headline, Madam Speaker. And while I have a minute or two left, I also want to put a specific shout out to our emergency services volunteers across the top end. These people also have their own homes to look after and their own families to look after and are volunteers. And they are out on the ground and are still on the ground today, Madam Speaker, helping their fellow Territorians at their own expense. I know of people who are self-employed, who have closed their businesses to go out and help other people across the Territory. And that is a quality of people of the Territory, and particularly a quality that is found in the people within our emergency services volunteers. So a big thank you to them, and I hope they get some downtime soon to go and look after themselves and to look after their families as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.